Hey weirdos, this is Evan Jarvix with Make Oklahoma Weirder, and this is the local music blog for the week, vlog for the week, our third one. So far so good. I guess I'll jump right into it. Big takeaway from the week for me personally, the Johnny Manchild show. I mentioned that last week. Johnny Manchild and the Poor Bastards, if you don't know, came out with a new album. It's called Insomnia. It is a full-length album. I've already mentioned that I like it and that I think it's good and that it's doing some cool stuff. One thing I'll especially point out regarding that album is, it's a full-length album. There's a lot of bands that kind of come up, and in this day and age, it's all about putting out content as much as you can, saturate the market, stay relevant at all costs. And, the art of the full-length album sometimes takes a back seat to that. Certainly, you can jam-pack an album with tracks. You end up with filler tracks and all that. I think this is an album that kind of avoids a lot of those pitfalls because it knows how to track. It knows how to flow from track to track to make an experience. And, I think a lot of bands sometimes, if you're so used to releasing singles and releasing EPs, you don't necessarily have to think about a listener experience. You're just thinking about making good single songs and getting your music out there. But when you're doing a full-length album, you really want to think about it as like a whole full project. And I don't know, it's just nice to see bands like Johnny Manchild still doing that properly and not just stuffing a whole bunch of tracks together and calling it a project. And, maybe it doesn't flow great. Maybe it doesn't, have any kind of conceptual angle. The very opening of this Johnny Manchild album, you really feel like, you kind of get nestled in a little bit for a long ride because it really kind of takes its time and says, this is a full-length album. It's called Insomnia. Here's our first track, and then it just goes from there. So, a little side note about that. If you're doing a full-length album, don't just slap some tracks together. Make it an experience. Do something with it. But I do want to talk about the show. The show was awesome, and a lot of people came out. Johnny Manchild and the Poor Bastards headlined. Big News opened. Our resident ska heroes and a band out of Joplin called Guys on a Bus, who I hadn't seen before, but I guess they come through often. Fit the bill super well, and everybody was great. Everybody was on. Lots of high energy, fun, just great night. And what I want to point out in particular is this happened at 89th Street, and I can't picture this event happening anywhere else. And that's not necessarily because there's no rooms that are like 89th Street. There really aren't, but there's some that could be comparable. It's an all-ages venue. That's what I want to talk about. How many all-ages venues are there in Oklahoma City? There's not very many. If I were pressed to name some, I can. Farmers Market is one. But they hardly ever have shows, and when they do, it's like electronic DJ style, occasionally hip-hop shows. Very little in the way of local shows. We did have Powerhouse for a while, and we had Warehouse B for a while, but right now there's really nothing going on over there. Sauced has shows, the pizza place in the Paseo. There's Java 39, which is a coffee shop out in Bethany that's doing some stuff. There's always the Blue Door, although their audience definitely skews older. And the Tower, obviously the Tower. Tower Studio, Tower Theater, and, of course, the big venues. But I'm thinking about, small, local-style venues where you can have, local shows like this Johnny Manchild show. And I just can't think of any place where it could have possibly happened with this level of energy. Johnny Manchild did play Tower a short while ago at one of the Coop showcases. I heard it went really well, but, when you have a room that big, if it's not full of people, some of that energy is just going to get soaked in the atmosphere of it, all the walls and everything. That's just not... This was... 89th Street was, filled with people. And a lot of them were younger. A lot of them would not be able to get into a bar venue. And Johnny Manchild knows this. He knows his fan base. he certainly is appealing to a younger demographic, although I think personally he would appeal to most demographics. I think his music has a broadness about it that can appeal to a lot of people. Even some folks who are maybe from my generation who grew up on stuff like Fall Out Boy back in the day. Like, if that's you, you should check out Johnny Manchild too. Because, I mean, he's got some of that stuff in his music in addition to kind of being, and they all dress up in suits, which is always like a timeless element to it. And he's got his horn section, and it's, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying here. But I think it's really nice that we have an all-ages venue like that where we can do this, but it's just a shame that there's really no other place I could think for him to do a show like this. I want more all-ages venues so we can have more all-ages shows so that our younger music fans can actually come see all this cool stuff that's happening instead of growing up and moving away at 21, So, anyway, I think a big element to why his show was so successful last week is that element of it being an all-ages show. So, just wanted to point that out. I could talk some more about that show, more about Johnny Manchild, but I will hold off on that. I'm sure the opportunity will come eventually because he's always doing stuff. Moving on, I'm just going to talk about whatever else comes to mind. I want to shout out Alan Doyle, hip-hop guy from Tulsa, who's been around for a hot minute for sure. TN4AD on social media, which is the number 4 Alan Doyle. He dropped 4, and I'm sure that's not a coincidence, but he dropped 4 new music videos a couple weeks back. I finally watched those. If you follow me on any social media, you'll see that I probably shared that, and it came in your feed. Certainly on my Instagram stories, which if you follow me on Instagram, always check the stories, because that's where I keep updates about new local music. Anyway, just wanted to shout out his new videos. I thought they were fun. I really liked the one with the white guy comedian kind of lip syncing to his song at various locations in Tulsa. That was pretty cool. Anyway, speaking of hip hop, I got sent some tracks from Igloo Panda. If you know Igloo Panda, he's a producer, largely in the hip-hop scene. He's actually a pretty versatile musician, but he's mostly known as kind of a DJ type. He's in the Sativa Prophets. He's that 4th member that you may not always know about. And, I always dig hearing new stuff from him and what he's doing. We got some really good producers around here. I think my favorite thing that he's done lately, honestly, is that Weirdos album. It's called The 500 Experience, I think, which I've listened to a few times. I actually have some merch from it. But that production is done by Igloo Panda, and I think it's honestly that production that makes that album so good and one of my favorite local rap albums of the year so far. So, Igloo Panda, always doing cool stuff. Thanks for sending me things. I checked out a new band out of Tulsa called the Gales, I believe. The Gales. They dropped a 5-track EP. If you're into Fleet Foxes, if you're into kind of like that folk sound with like some reverb and some harmonies, but still kind of has a bit of a band element to it. They got a new album out. I don't think a whole lot of people know about them, especially down here in Oklahoma City, so I want to shout them out. Oh, so much. Special Thumbs dropped a short film, like a 2-minute thing. I don't know what's going on, but they have a new handle, and it's called the Small Balls Association, which of course they shorten to ASS. Small Balls Ass. So they have a pretty funny sketch video up on social media. So I guess check that out. I don't really know what they're up to, but I'm curious about it. Oh, I'm out of time. Looks like this weekend I'm gonna try and check out the new tribe at Blue Door on Friday with Bo Jennings. Saturday I'm gonna be in Norman for the Pim Pam release, but you should go to, if not there, the House Party Pajama Jammy Jam 2 at the Speakeasy with yeah.